But you'll never see someone who, after they get criticized for texting and driving, there's never going to be someone who's like, drive your own drive. No one's going to do that because it's objectively wrong. Howdy, hello, Kringers. My name is Jeff. This is TrashWerks, and you are going to be watching an episode that I'm going to like to call Yapaholics Anonymous. And what I want to cover here today is really just to look at some common misconceptions that I see all the time in group posts, in YouTube comments, the general internet, sometimes, I don't know, in a newspaper, who knows. But I want to address these misconceptions, and I'm thinking about 5 off the top of my head that I want to start with. And a lot of these are really big pet peeves of mine, and pet peeves is really anyone who's been riding long enough to know what they're doing. And the first one, which I think is my biggest pet peeve and probably the most misunderstood quote in motorcycling, which is ride your own ride. People really don't understand what the point of that quote is, and they misconstrue it all the time to do the exact opposite of what that quote is meant to do. And for those of you that don't know, the misconception that I see and sort of how I see it used popularly is, let's say someone posts a picture in a Facebook motorcycling group. The local group that I'm in the Tampa Bay area is called Bay Area Riders, and it's got no shortage of squids. And there'll be pictures, there'll be videos of people rocking the Crocs and baseball cap, DOT approved gear, riding their Gixxer 600 that's clapped out, not taken care of, being an absolute menace in traffic, and half the time getting themselves in trouble, whether it is legally or physically. And of course, there's going to be comments on those posts, people judging those people, mentioning, the flaws in their riding, and without fail, there will be some squid in there going on about ride your own ride, mind your own business. And what's super ironic about that is the point of ride your own ride was a way for people to tell other riders, especially new riders, to not outride their skill level. Basically, the common scenario is you're brand new at riding, you still struggle coming off a stop, you struggle coming to a stop, you're not that skilled, and riding's a pretty social event, so you go out to the twisties, you meet a couple of people out there, and they're riding their ride, which is a lot faster than you have the skill to keep up with. And so ride your own ride is meant to be a way to justify you slowing down so you don't crash. That's the whole point of it, is to help you make better decisions, not worse ones. Yet time and time again, I'll see a post, I'll see a video, and there's going to be some little squidlet chilling out in the comments saying ride your own ride, and you look at their profile and it's the exact same character. I don't have to describe them. If you see them enough, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's so hot. And the main thing that really irks me about it is just the hypocrisy behind it. Because the reason that people are criticizing the way that these riders are acting in these videos or in these posts is because they're doing something that's objectively wrong. Like, it's not that, I like to ride sport bikes instead of cruisers. It's, I like to ride with disregard for what drivers around me are doing, what I'm doing, beyond my skill level, and I like to promote it online. That's what they're doing, which is objectively wrong. You can't, there's really no way around that. And so someone will criticize them online, and they'll pull that ride your own ride. But it doesn't make sense when you apply it to any other kind of transportation. If, let's say, there's a driver and they're on their phone, they're distracted, it's so common for riders to understand how objectively bad it is for a driver to be on their phone, not paying attention, being distracted. But you'll never see someone who, after they get criticized for texting and driving, There's never going to be someone who's like, drive your own drive. No one's going to do that because it's objectively wrong. And the same applies for motorcycling. If you're doing something objectively wrong, people have the right to criticize you, and you have to understand that they are well within reason for doing so. You don't just get a magic pass because you're doing what you want to do and you're being reckless. Albeit, a lot of motorcycling is based on being reckless and having fun. I get that, but just accept what you're doing, you know? Like, if you want to ride like an asshat, just admit that you're doing that. Like, it's not that big of a deal. The second misconception that I see more than I hear more about, if you spend any amount of time watching, riding fails or track fails or anything like that, especially with novice riders, you're bound to come across someone who, and here's the misconception here, only uses rear brake when they're cornering, which is a very, very poor tactic, a very poor technique. And I might make a video on, proper braking techniques. I'm probably not going to be the one to do that. I'm going to get someone who's very qualified to do that. But not braking in corners is really something that is taught to new riders, because the real thing, the actual point of why people say to use your rear brake in corners is because you shouldn't stab your front brakes in a corner. You can use front brakes in a corner. Racers do it all the time, and they are at 50, 60 degrees of lean angle, and they're still using their front brake, but they're using it proportional to how much they're leaning, how much grip they have, and they're doing it smoothly. So yeah, you can use your front brakes in a corner. Just don't stab them, Either apply them progressively, ease off of them. There's all kinds of different things that you can do, but just don't stab them. That's the main thing. Don't stab your front brakes in a corner. That's what you're not supposed to do. You are not supposed to only use rear brakes in an emergency braking situation when you're cornering. What I would suggest anyone who only knows how to do that is go into a parking lot. Practice braking in a corner. You'll see that, you can ride around in a corner. You can apply brakes. In fact, Yamaha Champ Riding School has a great video that shows you this exact process of being able to apply brakes while at lean, while turning, and they're completely fine. There's just a limit to how much you can do and how quickly you can do it. That's all it is. Aside from that, you can brake while you're turning. It's completely fine. It's what professionals do, and it's what you should learn how to do as well. Albeit the quickest way to brake and the quickest way to come to a stop is going to be straight up and down. So being able to know when to straighten up and brake, and being able to know when to brake while you're leaned over, that's going to be very important. And trail braking comes into this a lot because it sets you up to brake in a corner if you need to, if you're going around a blind corner and there's something there that you weren't expecting to be there. If you're trail braking, you already have some brake pressure on there. You don't have to worry about stabbing it. You can just apply more pressure progressively and you'll be safe. You'll avoid a crash. You'll keep yourself in a lot better of a position than if you just stab the brakes. Because if you stab the brakes, you tuck the front, you fall over, you slide. It's not a fun time. Trust me, I know exactly how bad of a time it is to tuck your front. Now, another big misconception that I see tossed around, especially on social media, thinking TikTok, Instagram Reels, something like that, is that I don't need therapy, I just need a motorcycle. My man, and LBR, it's mostly dudes that are doing this, you need therapy. If you think you need therapy, if there's something going on with you, get professional help. A motorcycle's not going to fix you, my dude. It is a tool that you can use to take your mind off things for a little bit. It's something that you can use to go out, have fun, or to, build out and feel enrichment from that. But if you've got underlying issues, it's not going to do anything for you. In fact, a lot of people misuse their motorcycles as quote-unquote therapy. It should be something to take your mind off things for a while, because it's a very engaging activity. Let's say if you have a stressful day at work and so you want to go for a ride after work just to, get your mind off things, stop being so frustrated, give yourself something else to think about, that's completely fine. But if you are upset because you lashed out at someone and now they're mad at you and they don't want to talk to you anymore, and so you want to go motorcycle and forget about it and not actually do any work about it, that's a different story. I'm not a mental health professional, so, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but what are you doing? okay, that's the wrong signal to be doing that. I thought dude was gonna pull a Yui on me, and he is pulling a Yui, but just pull over. There's no one behind me. So, yeah, no, motorcycles are not therapy. It's a way to kill time. It's a way to, take your mind off things if you need to, but it is not going to fix anything. In fact, it will likely cause you problems, especially if you're using it as a way to medicate yourself. You're probably going to get yourself into trouble financially, legally, physically, whatever it might be. Treat them as a toy. That's all they are. They're a toy. Some people use them for commuting and, whatever. It's a very small percentage. But for the most of us, especially here in America, motorcycles are toys. I'm not going to go out and buy an Xbox and say that that's my therapy and that's all that I need. If there's a real issue there, I'm going to go get help. And I know there's a whole thing about, not being able to access that. And, that's a whole nother conversation. But just know that this is not the answer to fixing yourself. It is just something to maybe assist, but it is not a problem solver. It's a problem maker. Usually a big problem maker in your pocket. What else? Oh. Another huge misconception that I see all the time, and a lot of it stems from something that is pretty valid, is the concept that car drivers or cagers or whatever you want to call them, the concept that they're out to get you. They really aren't. There's, of course, some cases where there's definitely people who are acting maliciously. They're trying to hurt you. They're ignoring your safety, and that's a real thing. But I think for the most part, when people are talking about cagers or talking about car drivers, it's really just being negligent on their part. And sometimes it's not even their fault. And I think a really big misconception is that not only are car drivers not trying to injure you, not trying to make you get into a crash, a lot of the times you're actually making it harder for them to keep you safe. Even though that, they have a responsibility to be attentive on what they're doing and what their surroundings are, motorcycles are small. They've spent the majority of their on-road driving time and career paying attention to vehicles, to cars, to trucks, to semis. That's what they're used to seeing. It's pretty rare for them to see motorcycles, especially if you're not in a heavily populated area. So you, as a rider, need to understand that and ride appropriately. You need to ride assuming they can't see you, not because they're ignoring you, because they're bad drivers. I guarantee you can go into any Facebook group, any population of riders, there's going to be someone who is a very experienced rider, who's very cautious on the road, who's a good driver, and there's even been a time where they have accidentally not seen a rider in their blind spot or almost cut someone off. It happens. And as riders, we need to understand that we're at a disadvantage. Our vehicles are smaller. It's harder to find us. We're not in the normal spots that a car would be in. We're less predictable. And so we need to ride with that in mind so that car drivers can have an easier chance of seeing us. Now, again, I know there's tons of YouTube videos. I've seen them of someone who's just driving absolutely maliciously, like disregarding safety, and that's a whole nother thing that definitely does exist. But I'm gonna probably go out on a limb here and say that 95% of drivers are not like that. They want to keep riders safe. They don't want to cause an accident. It's just a means of either they don't have the training, they don't have the experience, or it's just an impossibility. There are blind spots in cars. There are places they can't see, and bikes can definitely fit into those blind spots. So it's just something that you have to think about. And that also brings up another point of making sure that riders understand that they are more responsible than most seem to think about their own safety. They always like to blame it on a car. They never like to take accountability for speeding, for riding recklessly, cutting in and out of traffic when it's not expected. They never like to take account for that. And yeah, there's going to be times where it's not the rider's fault, where they're doing everything right and a car still, collides with them or causes an accident. That happens. But it's not as much as riders like to say or think. Most of the time, it's going to be something that a rider can change. Whether it's in the right of way or not, it's going to be something a rider can change, even if going against the traffic norm, whether it's just taking an extra second to slow down as someone is turning in so you can make sure the coast is clear, or if it's just giving someone the right of way because, they're going to pull into your lane, you can see that they're going to do it, so just slow down. Don't, press that issue, because if it's a bike versus a car, I'm going to tell you right now, the car will win. So there are all kinds of things to think about there, but I just hate seeing that people automatically assume that it's a car's fault or car drivers are out to get you, because you'll never guess what just about every motorcycle rider is. That's right, they are car drivers. They drive cars. And there's really no way for you to tell without, seeing someone on a bike or not. What was the last thing I wanted to talk about? Cars, ride your own ride, not using rear brake. Alright, I'm going to be real. I know that at the start of the video, I said I was going to talk about 5 things, but I got through 4, and I cannot remember the 5th one, and I'm too distracted by traffic right now. So it's going to be 4 common misconceptions about riding that I wanted to go over. If you have any thoughts or opinions about this, which I know that you probably will, because a lot of these are pretty controversial, by all means, drop a comment. We'll talk about it. Or you can just tell me how pretty I am. Either one, whatever you want to do. Be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to subscribe. If you want to see more of what I'm getting up to, specifically like photography stuff, head on over to my Instagram. It's trash.works at Instagram. You'll be able to see some of the goofy stuff that I'm getting up to over there. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and call the video here, and I will see you in the next one.